On the line with State Representative Jim Struzzi, who actually was scheduled to be attending a budget hearing for the Appropriations Committee in just a few minutes at 10 o'clock, but because of the weather, he's back here in Indiana. So it's good to have you back in the district, Representative Struzzi. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Todd. Yes, thanks for having me on. Yeah, we were scheduled at 10 a.m. to have our budget hearing with the Department of Community and Economic Development, but they canceled that late yesterday because of the 8 to 10 inches of snow they were supposed to get in Harrisburg, so I am back here in the district.
Yeah. Conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Obviously, they made that decision in time for you to get home here because with weather coming in, I'm sure that's a decision that you have to make. I think that's something that we don't pay as much attention to as we could is, for folks who are lawmakers and live in that area, no big deal. But for somebody who lives on the other end of the state, it is. You have to leave your family and make your way across the state in order to do your job.
Well, yeah, that's certainly part of the commitment that you make when you run for public office and you agree to represent the people of the 62nd District. I'm here to serve them, and that does require some sacrifice. So it's about a 3-hour drive, as you know, to Harrisburg. So they announced yesterday afternoon that because of the storm that they were going to reschedule the DCED hearing to next week. So I got home late last night, and I'm here in the district working this morning.
All right, so let's talk about what's gone on in Harrisburg before the Appropriations Committee this week. The budget, of course, is what we're talking about, and you've been able to hear some presentations. There are many more to come. What has struck you about these budget conversations so far?
Well, it's been a very interesting week. We had the Department of Revenue, the Independent Fiscal Office, the Department of Aging, Department of Corrections, and we had the Department of State yesterday afternoon. You learn a lot of things through these hearings. The purpose of the hearings is to get down into the nuts and bolts of the budget. Why are they requesting the allocations that they're requesting? How did they spend their money last budget cycle? And that's been the focus of a lot of the questions given the pandemic and a lot of the issues that we've seen come from the governor's administration. I find it very revealing to learn that, the Department of Aging, this is part of the hearing on Tuesday, the Department of Aging wasn't even consulted by the Department of Health on some of the things that they were doing to nursing homes. And to me, that just speaks volumes to some of the things that we've seen come from the governor's administration regarding communication. We're hearing the same thing from the Department of Health with the vaccinations and the true lack of a plan that we're learning about now with, the way the doses are being given out. So a lot of those things come out during the course of our questioning, and everybody can watch these hearings, Todd. They are live streamed as they're happening, and then I believe the Pennsylvania Cable News Network airs them that same night. And it's a great opportunity for me to ask questions pertinent to the district here. I had questions yesterday related to our corrections officers out at Pine Grove, and I think it's important that we look out for those corrections officers because those are the people that live and work in Indiana County. And so I had some questions about assaults on corrections officers with the Department of Corrections. Questions of the Department of State. We had some discussion about the election yesterday, what happened during the 2020 election, and how was the money spent, and that was very revealing as well. And I had some questions about the licensing process because we're seeing some extreme delays with people getting their licenses, professional licenses for things like nursing and that's delaying them getting into the workforce at a time when we need people in the workforce. So I find the process very compelling and very intriguing, and I'm just honored to be part of it and represent the people of the 62nd District as part of these hearings.
It's interesting to me watching these hearings every year that, if the revenue sources are what they are projected to be, that's one thing. If they're not going to be, then that obviously puts the whole budget process in peril. But we think about the amount of money that is available and whether it's being spent properly in this area when it could be spent better in this area. And for instance, the governor coming out this morning and renewing his call for the what he calls the Nellie Bly Scholarship Fund, which basically takes about $200 million from the Pennsylvania Racehorse Development Trust Fund and moves it into this program that would provide scholarships for students who will stay home here in Pennsylvania after they graduate from state system schools. Which sounds wonderful. Of course, if you're taking that $200 million from that particular fund, it's obviously being used for one thing now, so that creates a bit of a gap there. But then you wonder, is this the best way to apply that $200 million if it is actually available?
Well, I appreciate the effort. I think it's important that we do try to keep students that attend PASHE schools here in Pennsylvania We learned that a lot of people come from other states to Pennsylvania to be educated, and a lot of our local students go to PASSHE schools only to leave for jobs in other states. So I think that the effort is appreciated, but the use of almost $200 million really to provide scholarships, again, I think it's a good effort, but I agree that money could be better used. And my thought is, at a time when the state system is struggling financially, at a time when they're going through a system redesign, when we're seeing the retrenchments that are occurring at IUP and other state universities, why not simply put that $200 million into the PASSHE budget and allow them to lower the tuition rates for all students? Or, apply it to the system redesign. They're asking for $200 million along those lines. So I think that I appreciate the effort. I think it's important that we do keep students here after graduation in Pennsylvania to work and live and hopefully raise families. I think that we need to change that demographic cycle where people leave Pennsylvania. But I do think there's a better way to spend that $200 million. All
right. So these budget talks will go on, and you'll be involved in them. We'll talk with you again about the budget and how the hearings are unfolding. And what I did want to get before we're finished with you this morning, I did want to get to the announcement by the Independent Regulatory Review Commission about RGGI. The other day, we've had it in the news here the last couple of days. You put out a very strong statement yesterday demanding that the governor not only put on the brakes, but park this vehicle and move on to something else because it doesn't seem like anybody in the regulatory review process really is in favor of this.
Yeah, at some point, Todd, the governor and the Department of Environmental Protection are going to have to take notice of what the people of this Commonwealth are saying. We circumvented the General Assembly by entering into RGGI without legislative approval. If RGGI would become formal, Pennsylvania would be the only state in RGGI to do that without General Assembly approval and basically by the governor's executive order. And this would be the fourth regulatory commission that voted or recommended that RGGI not move forward. And really, this is the big one. And I think this speaks volumes. Now, granted, this is only a small victory if we haven't won the war, because the delay of a year, I think, is important because it gives us a chance to demonstrate the economic impacts that entering into RGGI would have on communities like ours and other communities across this Commonwealth that are in the energy industry. But again, it's still going to be on the table. So I'm really excited for Monday, Todd, because we have the Department of Environmental Protection scheduled for a budget hearing in Harrisburg. And this will definitely be a line of questioning that I have. And I asked the Department of Revenue this week during their budget hearing, have you projected any of these economic impacts? Because at the time, the IRCC hadn't issued their recommendation, so RGGI was still going to be implemented in early 2022. And even the Department of Revenue had no idea what the impact would be on job losses, on the economy, on tax revenues. And to me, that's just so short-sighted and misguided. And I think this really, I was so happy to see the IRCC's report because it speaks volumes when they're even saying, pump the brakes here because we need to see what this really means to this Commonwealth.
Yeah, I need to walk back a little bit because I characterize that as if everybody is saying don't do this. There are environmental groups and others who do recommend that we join RGGI. Obviously, they have a voice in all of this as well. But I think the overall point is that you want the legislature to have a voice here in things of this nature. And the RGGI rules, they're just one of a number of areas where you have contended, and so has Senator Pittman, that governors have too much power here, and that is by statute, too much power to enter into compacts that are going to last long after they are out of office. Absolutely, and all factors need to be considered, not just the environmental factors or the economic factors have to be considered, and that was our contention, is you're not looking at this from the big picture perspective. Don't get me wrong, and I'm glad you mentioned the environmental groups. And I had the opportunity to meet with a borough councilman here recently to talk about RGGI. And Indiana Borough Council supports RGGI. And I think, I don't understand that perspective, being that it will be so devastating to our local economy. But I had the conversation with them, and clearly, if you see what's happening in Texas right now, we need a diverse energy portfolio, and it has to include fossil fuels. It simply does. In the time when you have extreme temperatures like this, when renewable energy just isn't working, you have to have a diversified energy portfolio to meet the needs
of this Commonwealth. And that's the danger of RGGI, is it would shut down our coal-fired electric generation plants, and then what? We're going to see what's happening in Texas. So there are just so many things that have to be considered, and I'm glad to see that hopefully we can get this year-long delay, and we can actually assess the full picture of what RGGI would do to Indiana County and this entire Commonwealth.
Well, again, that's a conversation that will go on, and well, as the Independent Regulatory Review Commission is hoping, will go on for at least another year. State Representative Jim Struzzi, we're running out of time here, and too soon. We've got more to talk with, but we'll get you back on. We'll do that again in the very near future. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
Have a great day. It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. 1 FM and AM 1160.